Hey guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. It's Sunday, not Saturday, so I think what we wanted to do was kind of catch up on yesterday's games in the big tournament, which we're going to cover in some good detail. And welcome back, Steve.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jim. Hey, Rob, how are you? Rob just texted us the breaking news, not even 2 minutes ago, about Trevor's story signing with
Okay,
the Boston Red Sox.
we'll cover a lot of that too. Hope everybody had a great St. Patrick's Day. And
Hey,
Steve, our monologue is sponsored, of course, by Coriano Trucking of Summerhill, New York, and you have the mic.
I do. It's regarding the NFL, which is a 365 day a year business, and they remain to be front news. Seems like every single day. But I think I made mention when Tom Brady retired about the 22 years of Tom Brady, and I know I said it didn't seem like it for me. It went by in the blink of an eye, right? Like some other sports related things that we can talk about. But I will say this: the retirement did go by in the blink of an eye. So um, I'm torn on this. I'm not surprised he's back, um, but I'm tired of it. I think Tommy should just, stay home, be with his kids. I don't see I don't see Tampa winning it again. I just don't, and I don't see the upside of him coming back for one more year because talked about it, he's done everything he could possibly do times 10, or whatever however you want to measure it.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that up that I personally think Tom Brady should just ride off into the sunset at 8:44, and that's my motto.
I think you're right, Steve. I think this is more that he just can't pull himself away from what he's known for 22 years, and you're right. Can Tampa Bay get back there? I don't know either, but I think their chances certainly improved with having him back. But I think it's just a case he just can't. He's just not ready to relinquish the
I'm not
limelight.
knocking him for that competitive. I mean, that's what separates Tom Brady,
Yeah,
right?
no
For the
question
most
about it.
part, is this comp- ultra competitive nature. I get that. I get that. But I don't. I just don't see the upside to this. That's all.
And you're to your point, Steve. You're absolutely right. Is what is left for him to prove? He's done every single thing that you could possibly want in an NFL
What, win
career.
two Super Bowls with Tampa Bay? Okay. Okay.
But he just can't. He can't turn it off. He's
I
just
get it.
not
That's
ready to
it.
turn it off.
Okay.
I guess. Yeah.
Yep. And when Bruce Arians received the phone call, this is Tommy, and will you welcome me back? What do you think Bruce Arians said?
Come on down.
Come on down. You know, Blake
Yeah.
Abbott, you're not going to be the starting quarterback. Blame me.
Well, we'll see how this plays out. So that does that mean Gronk comes back, or yeah, I guess so, right?
I don't know.
We'll see. But Steve, let's jump right into what's turning out to be what we always thought it would be, just a great NCAA March Madness tournament so far. And obviously, what's the number one story coming out of this? It's the St. Peter's Peacocks from Jersey City, New Jersey. How about that?
Wow, this is. I've been to St. Peter's multiple times. One of my previous jobs I had was in Jersey City, and I'm intimately familiar with the campus. I think it's a great story. Shaheen Holloway is the head coach, the former guard of Seton Hall.
Yep.
The guard on the team is Doug Edert, who played at Bergen Catholic. This is, to me, this was the biggest upset, beating Kentucky. Even though it's a 2 versus 15 as opposed to a 1-16.
Yeah.
If you look at the disparity between what Kentucky generates money wise versus what's St. Peter's. St. Peter's is 2,300 students.
Yeah.
So I think this is a great story. I think they're one of 3 teams to like make it to the Sweet 16, like a Gulf Coast thing, and
Oral Roberts, I think.
whatever. Yeah, But
15 seed.
I'm loving this, and I'm not the biggest John Calipari fan in the world, and the fact that St. Peter's really embarrassed him in the first round.
Yep.
I'm
I agree, because
thrilled with St. Peter's.
I really thought Kentucky had the horses to go. That's what even makes it all that more, incredible. And you mentioned Shaheen Holloway, and just what a classy kid, what a humbling guy, and really the perfect fit for this story, right? A small school from Jersey City, first MAC team to make the Sweet 16, which I was a little surprised. I thought maybe Iona had made the Sweet 16 before, but no.
No. And who did we talk about a couple weeks ago? Rick Pitino, right? The MAC and Iona. And this is the story you would expect Iona and Rick Pitino to come, to open up and beat Kentucky. You can imagine that if that was the case. But that's what makes it so much like better. It's like St. Peter's out of nowhere beating, this is a pure David and Goliath story.
And that's what we always, come to expect with the March Madness. And, we're coming up, we'll wrap up the Sweet 16 today. But so far, look, there were a couple of upsets. An interesting fact that Baylor, defending champ, is the 5th straight national championship to not advance to the Sweet 16 the following year, which was another unbelievable story, because I thought Baylor was loaded for sure. I still like Gonzaga. I think, we talk about it. They're year after year, they get there, and I think this might be the year. But there's a tough Arkansas team waiting for them too. So you just never know what's going to go on. And but March Madness has been everything we expected. And we got to mention our producer Rob. His Seton Hall Pirates didn't get out of the first round, so I know there's disappointment there. But you can't deny how just all enthralling this tournament is for sports fans, and it's just great. Back
to St. Peter's. I mean, literally yesterday, I talked to a couple people. They asked my opinion. Murray State was 30-2. No joke, 30-2.
I know.
St. Peter's beats them, right? So yesterday I said I don't see St. Peter's, beating a 30-2 Murray State team, because I just thought that the joy and the exhilaration of that one round. But bam, Sweet 16. St. Peter's will be playing Thursday night in the Sweet 16. That is, for us Jersey guys, that's pretty cool.
I love it. And, the teams that we expected to be there are moving on, right? Arizona, Gonzaga, Kansas. I mean, these are the staples, right? So what do we got today? We got all eyes on Coach K, right? I mean, can this play out as that Cinderella story going out on his final season? So you never know about that. One of the big surprises I thought was Tennessee getting knocked out. And
me too. I thought Tennessee was going to at least get to the Elite Eight.
And how about Michigan? I mean, you got to give Juwan Howard some credit here. I mean,
I don't have to give Juwan Howard credit, and I'm not.
I don't know. They're pretty good. They look pretty good. And this, what's waiting in the wings if this happens? An Ohio State-Michigan rivalry. How cool is that, right? We always assimilate football with that rivalry, but this is something that could play out as well.
And off the top of my head, I don't remember ever a Michigan-Ohio State tournament game. Just top of my head.
I don't know that they've ever played it.
Yeah, I just can't remember it if it happened.
But that would be good. And the other teams that look good, Villanova. I mean, that Jay Wright, he is some basketball coach. You got to give that guy credit, man.
No question about it. Jay Wright is one of my faves.
Yeah, me too. I like it. And,
George Clooney.
What's up, guys?
Rob,
I'm fixed. Hey, real quick, did you hear when Notre Dame played Alabama? The fans were chanting, "This is not football." and beat them anyway. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was a big win for Notre Dame. No doubt about that.
No question. I mean, that Notre Dame Rutgers game, earlier.
That was great.
Yeah, double overtime, and it's been a good run for Notre Dame here. Out of nowhere, too. Notre Dame, when you think the last real good Notre Dame team I remember is a long time ago with Kelly Tripucka and Tracy Jackson, and Bill Lane Beer was actually on that team, and they made it to the Final Four. Orlando Woolridge was on that team. So it's been a long, long time since Notre Dame has been relevant in the tournament.
And I was surprised to learn that.
I believe that was like 1981 or something like that.
Yeah.
Or 78, like 81, 80, something like that.
But I was surprised to learn that Mike Bray is there he's 20 years now at Notre Dame. I can't believe that.
Great coach, and he loves it there. And he's an icon there, no question about it.
Hey, we'll see the Seton Hall
John Paxson.
Saturday.
John Paxson was on that team too.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm saying we'll see the Seton Hall talk for next Saturday. Let's see how this. We all know what's going to happen, but let's make it happen first.
Do you have any connections at St. Peter's, Rob? Do you have any friends? Do you ever do?
No, unfortunately, I don't. But it's also pretty cool. They're playing right down the road in Philadelphia. So there should be a big home crowd for them on Thursday. We'll see. Enjoy.
Cool.
Well, no question. There's been no shortage of excitement, and we're rooting for St. Peter's because I'm a MAC guy first and foremost. So it's great to see, and I wish them good luck down in Philadelphia next week.
I mean, if St. Peter's can do this, there's no reason that the Niagara Purple Eagles can't do this. Prominent alums Jim Monahan, Mike Garvey. Come on.
Well, let's see. Maybe there's Cinderella slippers in the closet for the Eagles next year. We'll talk. We'll see.
Okay.
So, Steve, let's move on. And like you said, the NFL is basically a 365 days a year soap opera, and so much has been going on with these free agency. And I think, one of the number ones, and I guess this is kind of a shocker, that the Cleveland Browns unloaded 3 number 1 picks, two number 2 picks for a guy who may or may not be eligible to play the game. What'd you think of that? That was quite a turnaround. That Baker Mayfield all of a sudden got kicked out the door overnight.
I tell you what, this is this story is quite unique. So I'm driving to work on, I would say Thursday or something, and I'm listening to sports radio. And the Baker Mayfield letter to the fans, to me it sounded like Mrs. Mayfield kind of wrote the letter, but hey, thank you. So I didn't think Cleveland was a destination for Deshaun Watson, especially.
I don't think any of us did.
Yeah, with I thought it was going to be Atlanta because Deshaun Watson has personal ties to Arthur Blank, etc. It's the South. And then you read Friday, Cleveland's not going to get him. The deal's not going to happen. Baker Mayfield wants to get traded, and Cleveland's like, we're not trading yet. Tough noogies. And then, boom, yesterday. Right? To say I was shocked, I was shocked.
Me too.
And I give credit to Nick Caserio, the Houston general manager, who I kind of threw under the bus. Like, I don't know. He made some questionable moves as far as I was concerned about especially the Lovie Smith hiring, right?
Yeah.
But for this guy to lie in wait and get 3 first-round draft picks, but Cleveland, it sounds like Watson will probably be suspended 6 to 8 games. That's my guess. He's not going to be charged criminally, so even if he gets sued and liable and all that crap, the guy. He just inked a deal where he can afford it.
Well, he's gonna need all $230 million to pay off these civil lawsuits. So.
Well, once the smoke clears here and Deshaun Watson, let's say another year, this guy's a good quarterback. I think Cleveland just saw the writing on the wall. They're not going to get where they wanted with Baker. I don't know where he's going to go. I don't know where Baker Mayfield's going to go. I don't know that answer. Right
well, now. I never really thought, and you go back to some of the archives that, to me, the number one overall pick, this doesn't seem to pan out in the NFL as of late. But I was surprised by that. But, I like Baker Mayfield as, he's very articulate and he has this burning desire to win. And
I like him, and I love his commercials. By the way, I think they're cool.
So yeah, where he ends up now, that's a good question. This takes off the table, a $40 million a year contract like everybody else is getting. I think I don't.
Right, he won't be filming his commercials in Cleveland anymore. We know that. He's going to have to move out of the stadium. Yeah. But you made a comment about the number one overall pick. Baker Mayfield joins Jamarcus Russell and Jeff George as the third number one overall pick to not last. I think it's 4 years or 5 years with the team that drafted him number one.
Well, Carson Wentz is going to probably fall into that category as well. He hasn't panned out as a number one overall pick, right?
I'm just saying, staying with that same team. Carson Wentz has bounced around a lot, obviously.
So that was obviously the biggest story, but there were a lot of other moves. Your Dallas Cowboys, this is Randy Gregory, had a deal in his pocket, and I don't know what came out of there. There was some sort of a clause that they threw.
I'll tell you exactly what happened here. Okay, the Dallas Cowboys stood by this guy for 6 years. They're the only team to do so. We drafted him. This guy was a first-round talent. Took him second round. So we had a deal in place, but the language we put in there was, Randy, if you F up again, we're going to take some cash away from you, right? But Dak Prescott doesn't have that language in his contract, which Gregory's agent found.
That's right.
Okay, but it's standard for the Cowboys. I'll give Denver credit. They swooped in. They didn't put that language in there. And, and let's face it, who has better weed in the United States and better than Denver? All right, so that's a Randy Gregory's thing. He loves smoking weed. I don't even know if they test for it anymore, to be honest. But Randy Gregory backed out of a deal with the Cowboys, and now he's public enemy number one for me.
Yeah, and he gets the same kind of money in Denver. So that's kind of a big loss for the Cowboys. But you're right. With this guy, you never know. Is he going to stay on the field? Is he going to slip up again? And right, he must have had at least a couple of suspensions before, right?
A couple. I mean, this guy. I said like 6 years. I mean, it's only been a couple of years since this guy's, started to.
So that's one move. How about this other move, which was head shaking at best? This Christian Kirk, who's got no resume whatsoever to speak of. And he's getting $84 million. I mean, now you could see why a Devontae Adams says, wait a minute, you're only going to pay me $20 million? That's crazy.
That is
crazy. Was a head scratcher to me.
Christian Kirk is a good receiver. I don't think he's prominent, out there yet. I don't think, everybody.
He got 2 years in the league, yeah.
I get it. But Jacksonville, hey, it's a weapon.
I guess.
But yeah,
a surprise, though.
He doesn't deserve more money than Devontae Adams. I can tell you that, obviously.
And I think another interesting move, and I kind of thought he was going to go back to Denver, was Von Miller leaving the Rams, going to the Buffalo Bills. And we have a lot of Buffalo Bill fans that I went to school with, and they asked me. I said, well, I think overall Von Miller's best days are behind him. But he gets a 6-year deal. He may still have something in the tank. I just think that was a long contract for a guy that's on the.
He's not going to play 6 years. I mean, again, that's the way the NFL does these contracts.
Right.
It's loaded up front. I think Von Miller will play 2 years at most with Buffalo. Yeah. But I was stunned by this, to be honest, because I thought Von Miller was just going to retire, get the ring with the Rams. I think he's going to the Hall of Fame. There's no question. And I'll give him credit. Sean McDermott must have convinced him to come up to Buffalo. Now he's a Super Bowl champion again. And he's good for the locker room. And he's a weapon. I don't think he'll be healthy, for 16 games. But if it helps Buffalo get over the hump, I'm down with this.
Yeah, and I think we both agree that Buffalo is literally on the verge of a potential championship here.
Yeah.
But when Miller went to the Buffalo, I thought for sure once Wilson went to Denver that he wanted to go back to Denver, that it made sense. But I still don't think that Denver, Russell Wilson aside, is Super Bowl caliber ready like Buffalo Bills. So
I think Denver's getting there. I do. But if I also look at it from Von Miller's perspective. If he's choosing Buffalo to Von Miller, Buffalo is the odds-on favorite in the AFC. He's got to believe that. He's got to believe that, and I think we all kind of believe Buffalo. Buffalo this year, they have to step up this year. There's no more excuses that they are, we lost, and that's good experience, and Josh Allen is growing, and all this other stuff. McDermott needs to win now, and Buffalo's got to really make it.
Well, and I think that's right. And you and I talked about it. He's young. He's just like a Sean McVay kind of guy. He just lives and dies for this stuff, and he's the right coach for them. And I think they really will get over that hump. I think they're really loaded for bear this time around.
Yeah. And then the Rams made a couple quick moves. They, extended Stafford, gave him the Super Bowl, contract. Congratulations, Robert Woods. For a cup of coffee, he's out the door. They signed Allen Robinson the third, which is a real good move.
Yep.
The Rams are not. The Rams are going to be just fine for next year.
So,
and Julio Jones getting released too is another. Kind of like that. Is he done? I don't know. But Woods went to Titans to replace him. I don't know if Julio Jones is done.
Well, I mean, they must see something on the horizon.
Yeah. It's not, it's not good.
No. But here, how about what the Giants were eyeing to bring somebody like Trubisky in, who ends up signing with Pittsburgh. So what does that mean? Does that mean we could see Baker Mayfield come to the Meadowlands? Or have they made the decision that Jones is not going to be their long-term solution? And if that's the case, then you watch. I think Mayfield, there's a possibility that he could end up there.
Well, they signed Tyrod Taylor, which is a smart move. I think we're all in agreement. Tyrod Taylor is a professional football quarterback. And he's a character guy. We all know this is the year for Daniel Jones. The Giants are giving him an open audition in year 5 here, and either he I don't believe they're going to give him this extension. I don't care how good he plays. I don't think the New York Giants are going to go, here, Daniel, here's 7 years, and we're going to pay you $45 million a year. I just don't see that happening. Now, is Mayfield the answer? I don't see Baker Mayfield and the Giants as a match. I don't. But who knows?
Yeah.
But I think the Giants are not going to, invest in Daniel Jones. He's got this neck injury. There's a host of reasons why.
I know.
And Daboll's going to want to get his guy, whoever it is.
But listen, I still like Jones, but I can see your point. It's valid. You have to always be concerned anytime there's some sort of a neck injury. Is that worth an investment for long term? So it's a good point, Steve. Because I as much as I like Daniel Jones, I'm on the fence about whether or not you pay him what the going rate is for a starting quarterback. But something it's either make or break for him this year. So we'll see how that pans out.
And again, what we've seen with the trade market for NFL quarterbacks. So it's conceivable next year the Giants may have to part with assets, 3 first rounds, 2 first rounds, whatever the case may be. If there's a guy on the current roster that they want, they're going to have to do that.
Well, let's see what happens. You know, them signing a Tyrod Taylor, listen, he's a middle of the road adequate backup. I just don't know if he's a full end. So, do the Giants, look down the road and look at a Kenny Pickett, kind of keep a local flavor, something like that. Something has to be done.
No chance they draft Kenny Pickett.
All right,
this is not the year the Giants are drafting a quarterback.
We'll see.
But the Giants, through free agency, got a couple of NFL offensive linemen that they signed, right? Which is good.
They did.
And they're kind of no names. A lot of people don't know who these guys are, and but I think they're rebuilding that offensive line. So I don't know what they're going to do draft wise, because I really thought they would go offensive line with their first 2 picks in the top 10. They still may, but
I think one of them's got to be, at least one of them has to be an offensive line.
Yeah, I would think so. So
we've been saying that for the past 5 drafts, and they just continuously,
right. For the last 5 drafts, my brother Jim and my brother Tom and I will have a phone call after the Giants draft. Yep. And for the last 5 years, it's not been positive.
Yep. So Steve, let's move on to our next segment, which is Major League Baseball, because there's a lot going on. You even just 2 minutes before the show mentioned that the Boston Red Sox have signed Trevor Story.
Right, but let's give credit to our producer, Rob, for letting us know on that. It must have just happened, right?
So overall, when you look at what's been going on, the marquee free agent signing since the lockout ended, right, with Carlos Correa, these were the top guys. So again, is it more important for them to win a Major League Baseball championship or the money? So he opts for the money, goes to Minnesota, who's, I don't know that they have a legitimate World Series aspirations.
Of course they do. They just acquired Gary Sanchez, for Christ's sakes. Come on.
Good luck with that. That we were going to actually talk about that.
Oh, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, because our long-standing wish for him to get out of New York is finally realized. I don't know that they have a permanent solution, behind the plate that's going to hit 30 home runs.
We have some young kids in the system.
Yeah. So Correa goes to the Twins. Story goes to the Boston Red Sox, and
which is a good, they can see Trevor Story going to Boston. It's I think it's a fit. And again, Alex Cora is in the dugout for the Red Sox. I think that scares me most about the Boston Red Sox is, regardless of the scandal, regardless of the cheating, or regardless of all this other stuff, Alex Cora is a damn good manager. If Alex Cora signs off on, I want Trevor Story as my shortstop.
He does have a history, though, of a little injury history. So that's
we're hoping this injury history now really comes to the forefront. So.
Yeah.
But he's apparently got some arm issues or something with Trevor Story. But we shall see. Again, it's another player leaving Colorado, and we shall see. Are the numbers in Colorado going to be the same? In Boston, are they going to be the same as Colorado? The one guy we can say, Nolan Arenado, right? Whether he's in Colorado or St. Louis, that guy is a baseball player.
Oh, he's a Hall of Famer in waiting, no doubt about that.
He's one.
But a couple other ones, Steve. I guess this is a case of the rich get richer, right? The Dodgers signed Freddie Freeman, gave him, opened the vault, gave him the money. Obviously, the tax isn't an issue for the Dodgers and so forth, and that's a good fit for both the Dodgers and for Freeman. I mean,
to me, this has the feel of the Yankees and Steinbrenner when, when we signed Don Gullett, right? When Don Gullett, before he, his arm trouble, but Don Gullett was outstanding for like the Reds. So we got Don Gullett. We signed Andy Messersmith. We signed Reggie Jackson. We signed, all these freaking names, right? We were loaded, right? Yep. It has to me the same feel. Like Freddie Freeman is a freaking Dodger now. Holy Christ.
Yeah.
So it's going to be the Dodgers and the Mets in this financial war, right? And Cohen has got more money than anybody in baseball.
Yep.
And this guy is going to open the checkbook.
Yep.
And now we know the Dodgers, which we know and we've seen for the last 5 years, they got a shitload of money, man, and then they're okay with spending it.
Yep.
I got to think right now the Dodgers are not only going into the season, we're probably the prohibitive favorite. They're really the prohibitive favorite right now.
I mean, the only thing that they lost is Kenley Jansen, their stud closer. Kind of, he opts out. He goes somewhere else.
Yeah.
But how about the money though? Chris Bryant. I mean, I always assimilate him with a guy that's been in this league for a long time, and he really hasn't. But I don't know if he's $182 million worth. Kind of a contract to go to Colorado. No, Colorado's not going to win anything. I mean, but here's the point where you just mentioned before with Nolan Arenado. They didn't want to pay him that kind of money, so they get rid of a future Hall of Famer, and then they back up the truck for a guy that may not be, certainly in that status, as a Major League Baseball player.
I'm a Chris Bryant fan. I am. Like when he came up, I read a good story about him and his father, and his father's like his hitting coach and all this stuff. But Chris Bryant is like, he's a throwback, right? He's like,
yeah, no, I like him.
Right, I like him. He's a good kid. He got the World Series with the Dodgers, right? Can I blame this guy for something? Not taking this money from Colorado? Of course, you got to take that money. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing if this guy's going to crush it in Colorado. But to your point, I think Colorado, once they saw what Nolan Arenado was continuing to do in St. Louis, said, I think we made a mistake. And Chris Bryant is probably the closest thing potentially to replacing Nolan Arenado's production, which is a big,
gaping hole, no doubt. But the one thing that is, when you look at these free agent signings, I mean, with Atlanta, passing on Freeman, but they make the deal to get Matt Olson. I mean,
makes sense.
Really, why not keep Freeman? He's beloved in that town, and I just don't understand that thinking. I mean,
I think Matt Olson's 27 or 28, and Freeman's 32. I think Matt Olson is a hell of a baseball player so far in his career. And to your point, though, the Braves did give up 4 of their best prospects. I mean, 4 of their best prospects. So when the Yankees, so if you do this, you kind of thought, well, the Yankees are in the mix for Freeman. But, excuse me, I'm talking about Matt Olson. But if you look at the Yankees, the top 4 that they would have had to part with, number 1 was Anthony Volpe. That wasn't happening, right? So when you compare what the Braves gave up, what the Yankees potentially would have had to give up to get Matt Olson in the fold, the Yankees weren't doing it, and we see why, right? Because we got a shortstop that nobody can pronounce his name. We got Josh Donaldson at 36 years old, but we got rid of Gary freaking Sanchez. And listen, I'm a little bummed out about Gio Urshela.
Me too.
New York. But he was this guy was a really solid.
Absolutely. That was the kicker for me. Yeah.
But it's the cost of doing business. I've been telling everybody all week, I don't care what it took to get Sanchez out of here. And unfortunately, if it was Gio Urshela being part of the package, then
And I love the fact that you've been bringing this kid up, this Volpe. He is untouchable as far as
untouchable.
And
they got 2. That they didn't Oswald Peraza. It's another one, he's untouchable. So we got 2 up-and-coming infielders, which is good. Our catching situation, okay, we got Higasha, and we got this lefty bulldog catcher. Can't hit, but he's defense. And we got a couple kids. This Austin Wells kid seems to be the up-and-coming Yankee that we drafted. So we drafted I know we drafted 2 catchers in the first round in the last 5 years, but I think this Austin Wells is closest, and I can see him perhaps next year making the Yankees. So.
And I think what all this means, and you're right, so we talked about this. Is this deal going to get done? Is Judge? He's going to be a $40 million a year guy now. I mean, these guys are all getting that money, so I think they're going to have to pony up for this Judge.
They are
before the start of the season. I think so.
Yeah, I don't know if the contract has to be done that soon, but it's going to be done soon. It's going to be done this year. Aaron Judge, with the vaccine status in New York City still, he hasn't been vaccinated. I think we can all infer that. So if the mandate is not lifted, Aaron Judge is not playing in Yankee Stadium for the home game. So
I'm still having a hard time believing that this is going on like that, but that's really a possibility.
It is, and for our fans, throughout the country that really aren't aware of this mandate in New York City, it's asinine, right? So you can, a visiting player can come to the Barclays Center in Brooklyn or Madison Square Garden against the Knicks and can play. But
I think we agree.
The guy on the home team can't play.
Silly.
Right? And everybody's shaking their head like, what am I missing here?
Yeah.
Well, you're not missing anything. It's silly beyond words.
I think that's going to get struck down.
It has to.
Yeah, it's not making sense to anybody at all. And listen, as far as the whole pandemic coming to an end, hopefully it really is, but people are still dying from COVID, so it's not 100% in the rear view mirror, but yeah, I think those mandates in New York City will change, certainly before the start of the baseball season.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yeah.
And the Brooklyn Nets, I think they hope so too when the NBA playoffs start, because
right.
Kyrie Irving actually play a home game.
Yeah. And let's move on to real quick. We'll talk about the NBA, which is sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. And
can I just say one thing about baseball?
Go ahead.
I've been thinking about it because I where I live, I've mentioned that the recreation field is literally right over here. But after this strike and the lockout and all this stuff, and I was hearing the sound of the baseball hitting the catcher's mitt, when I was walking by. I don't know. When I said this lockout was bad for business, it's affecting me. I don't know. I'm not as enthusiastic about baseball as I used to be, and I just wanted to admit that. And hopefully it's just temporary. Yeah. But I just wanted to mention that when I said the lockout was bad for business, well, I'm one of the consumers, and
I can understand that.
No bueno.
I can understand that. Absolutely. But see, so let's move on real quick to the NBA. Just a couple of quick things. You brought up the Nets. Obviously with Durant, if they overturn this and he's full back, he's a great player. We both concede that. We don't care for his antics or whatnot. But is that enough? Is Durant and Irving enough for them to get past the Bucks? I just don't see it. I really don't. I mean,
I don't think so. But if these two are healthy and Ben Simmons actually suits up and plays, yeah. I mean, Durant, during the week, Durant had 53 or something, then Kyrie goes off for freaking 60. So right then and there, it's just a reminder of how super talented these two guys are.
I know.
And again, everybody I think knows my feelings on Harden. He's a cancer to me.
No question.
So even though that he's not part of the big three, I think that's actually better for the Nets. Nets. To be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Well, listen, I mean, if he honestly thought his chances were better by going to Philadelphia to win a championship, he was completely mistaken, because Philadelphia is not going to come anywhere near beating the Bucks or even the Heat, and the Celtics are playing better. That's why the NBA East, the Eastern Conference is so much more competitive, with teams that I just don't think it's a clear path for Brooklyn. I really don't.
The Boston Celtics are playing great basketball.
No.
But they're formidable. I think that if they stay healthy the way they are playing, they've been on such a since Christmas or say, and Tatum has been consistent. But defensively, the Celtics are playing great freaking basketball. So they're formidable. The Heat, we've talked about, the Heat are formidable.
Yep.
76ers, to your point, I'm in agreement. No. They'll blow up somehow. The Nets, but I still ultimately feel the Milwaukee Bucks have this window is still open for them.
Yeah,
that they're that good, and Giannis is that good. So, I'm going to stick with my pick of Milwaukee getting back there. And then the West, where I think we're enjoying this implosion of the Los Angeles Lakers. I know
I'm liking it.
Every night I see they lose by 8, by 10, and the infighting and what Russell Westbrook and and LeBron. This is great stuff.
I know, and for them to even be talking, should Frank Vogel lose his job? Like, he's not the coach anyway, obviously. I mean, the number 2 all-time leading scorer is the coach,
yes,
the general manager, and the commissioner of the NBA. And that's why, to your point, Steve, is exactly right. I'm enjoying the implosion that we're seeing before our very eyes.
See.
Yeah. So I think we're pretty sure that it's coming out of the West. It's either Phoenix or Golden State.
It's going to be Phoenix because, Golden State is great at the start they got off to. Seth has a problem with his foot. They've come back down to earth. They're Phoenix is Christ. They're like 56-12 or something.
I know. And Chris Paul's missed the last month of the season,
which is good. If Chris Paul's missing it now, then he's going to be ready for the playoffs. And Phoenix, they got work to do because they lost last year, and they want that ring. And Chris Paul especially wants that ring. Devin Booker's young enough, and where he'll have multiple chances, but Chris Paul is. He's
just to move on to that out of the NBA, was one of my random points, and I wanted to bring this up because you brought up the Celtics before. They're retiring Kevin Garnett's number.
They retired it,
and to me, I'm going, listen. Kevin Durant was a great basketball player, but not for the Boston Celtics. I mean, he retired. The lore of the Boston Garden. I gotta say you couldn't agree with this either. Please tell me.
I think all right, you're gonna be a little taken aback, I think, by what I'm about to say. There's a documentary on Showtime about Kevin Garnett. It came out a few months ago, and I watched it. And I am a huge Kevin Garnett fan.
Me too.
Right?
Me too.
He was the difference why the Celtics won the title in 2008. There's no question about it. Okay, you had Ray Allen, you had Paul Pierce, but you had Kevin Garnett. And Kevin Garnett brought this ferocity and will to win, right? He never won anything before. He played on some good Timberwolves teams. He was the number 1 overall pick out of high school, Kevin McHale.
Yeah.
I get it, right? But you have to acknowledge that Kevin Garnett was why the Celtics won the title in 2008. And are they rewarding him with a retired jersey? And again, people that know me and you and our brother Tom and so on, our criteria to have that number, I don't care what team you're on, to hang it from the rafter, you better have been pretty special. Now, he was special for 20 years, but, he only played with the Celtics for, a few years. So was I surprised at retiring his number? Yeah, a little bit. But then if I hadn't seen this documentary, yeah, I'd be like, "What are you kidding me?"
All right, well, that's fair. Then
I think he deserves
it. But then that means you got to retire Paul Pierce and Ray Allen's numbers too.
Listen, Paul Pierce, I think, because Paul Pierce played basically his whole career with the Celtics. So.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. He was a Hall of Famer, no doubt, and Kevin Durant's a Hall of Famer.
I see Paul Pierce being this number retired. Ray Allen, hit a pretty big shot.
You can't do one without the other. I don't think that's the whole thing. So, Steve, some random points of interest as we start wrapping up the show. I just, a heartbreaking story was this car crash to the University of the Southwest. I mean, God, it makes you appreciate how
brutal.
How life just hangs in the balance at times, and it's really just a terrible tragedy. It turns out that the kid driving the truck was 13 years old. I mean, it's something I wanted to bring up, because it's such a heartwarming, thing to hear about, and hopefully they can rebound and pull through. It was a terrible, terrible tragedy.
When I read it, I was sickened by it.
And there was just one other thing, and it's somebody that we've been following, was this story out of Ohio State, Harry Miller, the offensive lineman, who, again, we've talked about that, the pressures of being a college athlete and so forth. And, he came right out and say, here's a guy, he's as big as a house, but, the mind is stronger than the body. And he almost succumbed to it. He turned it around. But I think when he comes out and speaks about something like this, you got to tip your hat to him. And, well done, Mr. Miller, for coming out and speaking out about it. And the way Ryan Day handled the situation was exactly how you're supposed to be doing things like that.
No question about this. Mental health, obviously, is, it's a touchy subject. It's always been, skeleton in the closet type of thing.
Yeah.
For somebody to come out. But Harry Miller doing this is great. Ryan Day, to your point, has handled this wonderfully.
Yep.
And Harry Miller is going to, I think, dedicate his life now to helping others. And this guy's got, the resume, playing at Ohio State, a top recruit, and be packing it in because of mental health. There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
In fact, this guy's got to be commended even further. Like
100%.
Yeah,
that was my point, and I wanted to end our random point segment on a real positive note, and this really hit home for us. And just well done for him.
I agree.
So, Steve, let's touch base on our notable passings this week. John Potvin, right? This is the second Islander that we've seen from the Stanley Cup champion team pass away. John Potvin was 72. Won two cups with the Islanders, but he was, and I was talking to Mike Garvey, who was a Long Island guy, and he was just a well-liked guy in the community, just like a Clark Gillies. And, when you play for those Islanders, these guys stay at home. They stay on the island. They live on the island. And, he passed away at 72.
Right. Dennis Potvin's brother. And, there was a picture in the paper of Dennis Potvin and John, I don't know, 10 years ago or something like that. Yeah. But boy, did they look alike.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. But, listen, 72 years old, 2 Stanley Cups. Obviously, Dennis Potvin, is a Hall of Famer, but his brother was a Hall of Famer person, too. And I'm glad that he got his 2 rings. John Potvin, rest in peace.
Yep. How about this one, Steve? Ralph Terry, former Major League pitcher, 86.
86.
1962 World Series MVP.
Correct.
Just, well loved by the Yankee community and so forth. And he had a good run at 86.
He's a great Yankee pitcher. We played. A lot of people don't know this game Stratomatic that we played. Right, it's a board game with dice and the baseball cards and stuff.
Yep.
Remember Ralph Terry, 61 Yankees?
We do.
Totally. So Ralph Terry, 86. Yeah.
And here's another one from the world of sports. And I think you and I, we kind of joked about it, that John Clayton, also known as the Professor from ESPN, 67. I thought he was 67 25 years ago, but he had a good run. It was an interesting thing because he started out as like a beat writer in Pittsburgh for a majority of his early career, and wrote some controversial stories about the Pittsburgh Steelers and so forth, and always had the ire of Coach Chuck Noll, but he stood fast on it, and he made a good name for himself in this business.
Absolutely. John Clayton was one of my favorite reporters. Think of him on ESPN, obviously,
Yep.
With the glasses and, like the accountant look type of thing. Probably weighed 138 pounds. So
yeah, looked like more like an accountant than a newspaper guy.
But I tell you what, John Clayton, he's like a Tim Kirchin to me, like for baseball. Like
good analogy.
Well respected.
Yep.
His reporting, he's not just reporting something. When John Clayton reported something, you knew that he did his homework, and he'll be missed. That's 67. That's way too young.
Yeah, I know. And just one from the world of entertainment was William Hurt, who was
a big one. This is a big one.
He was big. I mean, he did some good movies. The Big Chill was good. Body Heat, those kind of things. But
won the Oscar, Kiss of the Spider Woman.
Yeah.
He had a run now. I mean, he had that run in the early 80s, like Big Chill Broadcast News.
Yeah,
he was the number one guy for probably like a 5-6 year stretch.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
And you know what? He didn't embrace celebrity. He was a very private guy. He he battled addiction. Great. A lot of people. There's nothing bad to say about Bill Hurt.
Exactly.
Well respected amongst his peers. 71 years old. It was sad to hear that news.
Yeah, 71. So, but anyway, Steve, I hope everybody had a great St. Patrick's Day. That's kind of a little hand staple.
There we go, brah.
Yeah. But great to have you back. Don't leave us too often here. We enjoy your company here. So,
unfortunately,
behind the producer's chair. Appreciate you setting this up for us today, and enjoy and go.
Rob, thank you as always. My co-host.
I have one question. Why isn't Jim wearing the green hat behind him?
Because St. Patrick's Day is over. I wore it on Thursday.
It's all weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, you guys have a good rest of the week. Enjoy the tournament today, and we'll catch up to you guys next week. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.